I'm Anna, the Yarn Randomizer, and it is the 19th of October. I'm peeking at my notes over there, and this is episode 35 of the Yarn Randomizer. Now, let's see. Okay, this is a knitting podcast, and pretty much only that. And I'm going to, again, cheat and peek. And I wanted to say welcome to folks who've discovered my podcast. I hope you enjoy what you see here and everything, and welcome back to folks who've been watching. I appreciate you coming back to see what's going on. And finally, yes, I am. You can find me as the Yarn Randomizer on Ravelry and on Instagram, and my Gmail address is also the Yarn Randomizer, and I have a spread shop and a mailing address below in the description, so you'll see all of that down below. Now, let me see if I can get this light to behave. There we go. I'm trying to keep that window from blowing out, so I may have to kind of adjust things on screen every once in a while. I think last year it always looked like snow out there because it was so bright, but I've been getting a little better about getting it to behave. All right, so the usual kind of YouTube thing, please like and subscribe, and we'll get right to it. So I did not have a giveaway last time, so there's nothing to cover this time, but there will be a skein given away. I'll be destashing, and so if you're interested in that, hang around till I get to the stash management portion of the video. So in the meantime, the first thing, we'll get right to it, is what am I wearing? And so this is the, I'm drawing a blank, Swanky Chic, and is by Annie Lupton. And so this was a shawl I made. I actually finished it like almost 2 years ago, and it was sitting in my finishing basket because of all the colors in it. It had like 1 million threads to weave in. And so my weave in 10 a day for 2024 that I started at the beginning of August has enabled me to get this done, and I got it blocked and finished. So I think it turned out great. This was made from a kit. I think it was called the, From Montreal to Paris, and it was a surprise box done by Les Garçons and La Bien-Aimée for Christmas of 2021. And so, so I ended up not using it for what they intended, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So the kit that they made came with a full skein of fingering and a full skein of Surrey yarn, and then also Surrey and silk, and then also there were a bunch of minis, some of them from La Bien-Aimée and some from Les Garçons. And so what I did was I found a pattern that called for fingering and some mohair. And so if you can see, the little gray areas are the mohair there. And then I have this one common color here from La Bien-Aimée. Let's see if I can hold that up there. And that you see being striped in with the contrast, all the different contrast colors that are there. And so it's really neat because it's got the mohair, and it's the mohair by itself, not mohair, in this case it's Surrey alpaca, in those gray bands, and then all the other colors kind of alternated using the stripes and lace sections. And so it really did a good job using up a lot of the yarn. It produced a very long rectangular wrap that I'm super happy with. I actually have a spreadsheet, I think, linked to the pattern about how I used everything and how I kind of changed the organization of the pattern a little bit to make it somewhat more symmetrical around a center panel. But yeah, so it turned out so nice. And that's all thanks to getting ends woven in. It's about time. So yeah, let's make sure it doesn't blow out. Okay. So that is what I was wearing. It's a little warmer today than it has been, so I'll just come back to my sweatshirt. And by the way, this is actually a sweatshirt from a Breaking Yarn that I picked up. And it says, here you go, you can see it, I am the one who knits, which seems appropriate. So yeah, so that's what I was wearing. So now we get to step into finished objects. So I've gotten a couple little things done. So one was this little single skein shawl. So it's my little lace scarf by Lisa Haynes. Lisa Haynes? Yes. And it turned out so neat. I got it finished, I think about a week ago, and I blocked it, and I blocked it very gently. I didn't stretch it out hard. I just kind of set it on my blocking mats and spread it out, and I think it turned out really nice. This is Hypnotic Yarns from their Yarnable collection. This is their Apple Crisp colorway. It's a fingering weight yarn. And so this little shawl is just the neatest little thing. And it was a snap to knit. It was a very memorizable pattern. Made a lot of sense. I put notes in my project about it. And so yeah, so it ended up producing just a really beautiful little scarf. And I think I only had just almost like 5 grams exactly left. I could have probably made the middle just a little longer, but I always get worried about having yarn chicken at the end. And so yeah, if you've got like a one skein that you want to use for something, Lisa Haynes has some really nice patterns. And so you can see how there's that middle section, and then how it increases and decreases, and the end, even the end is really neat. Let's see, or the beginning, how you have the patterns start coming out from these 2 garter bands on each side surrounded by twisted stitches. So yeah, it was, and the squish factor here is just through the roof. There's something about how using this size needle with a nice fingering yarn produces an absolutely squishy little shawl. So highly recommend that. And it's one that I would consider doing again. So yeah, so that was a lot of fun. Nice small knit portable project that was easy to keep in mind as far as the pattern. So then another finished object. So I finished my Oslo hat by Petite Knit. So you can see that, and it came out so nice. Let's make sure it doesn't, okay, we're good. This was with some Madeline Tosh Farm Twist, which I don't think they make anymore. And it used just over a skein of it. I think I dipped into a second skein. Let's see, let me see how much I actually used. I think it was maybe 1/4 of a second skein, possibly. Let's take a look real quick. Oh no, even less than that, 1.15 skein. So I didn't need a ton. And so it's an interesting pattern. This folded up brim is 2 layers of stockinette folded back on itself, and you join the, see if you can see this. It's not obvious here, but here is the join here. What I did was I did a provisional cast on, and then I knitted that back together when called for, and then you can see this kind of, there's a kind of a 3/4 of an inch of what was knitting until I turn this around, so that when this folds up, you don't see garter stitch as you fold it up. And I think my only, I love the hat. It fits well. It's nice and cozy. I've been wearing it multiple times this week. We had some below freezing temperatures in the morning in our first hard frost here. And I guess my only comment would be I made the size medium. And I would say, to me, the funny thing is I feel like this band isn't as long as it looks in the picture, and the top doesn't seem as long. And I did everything to measurements and stuff, and my gauge was spot on for this pattern. And when I looked at folks' photos, I felt like it definitely looked more like some photos. It sort of feels like the hat in the photos of the pattern, it looks like the brim is larger and the top is both longer. But I'm not sure about that. Maybe it's just the size that I made that makes the difference. And the other thing I found funny was some people mentioned, you know, that place where you join the, fold that brim in half and join it together. With my provisional cast on, I don't feel like the hat, this fold here, where that happens, is like a pronounced fold. I had to fold it there to get it, and I kind of blocked it there to fold along that line. So maybe that's a disadvantage of doing a provisional cast on instead of a regular cast on, and then knitting together the cast on edge with a row as you're going forward. Maybe that has a more pronounced, definite fold on it. But even so, it's like I got no complaints, and my husband really liked this hat, so he may end up with one similar to it. But yeah, you can even see the nice top and everything. So yeah, so it was a lovely hat. Felt like it took a little while longer than a usual hat, but yeah, with all this brim, definitely that would be more knitting than usual for like a single, like just a beanie and stuff. So yeah, but yeah, I definitely recommend the pattern. It was really nice, and I love this hat. It just fits so great and feels so nice. But I'm not going to mess up my hair right now. Maybe I'll stick in a picture of me wearing it. All right, so there's that. So those are the two finished objects I have this time. Now, if I move on with my notes, so I have made progress on everything this past week. So let me grab a couple of things here. I want this, and there's the other part. So I picked up the motorcycle sweater again and did a little bit of work on it. And so I've got the top of the pocket done. I'm making a big mess here. All right, so let's see if I can show you what this looks like. Oh yeah, I've got the needles elsewhere, so I've got a little bit of a restriction here. So I went further, and you can see it. There are 2 garter ridges and then a cast off and garter stitch at the top of the pocket, which I think is a nice treatment for the pocket. So I basically finished the rest of the design, and I have to say, this is not the neatest looking knitting, and there are mistakes here. I realized looking back at it, like the number of rows in this first row of checkers is 1 short, and then if you notice this last red square is like one a little bit higher than the rest of them. And it's really funny because there's all kinds of places where things are like 3 rows apart in the graphics in the pattern, and I didn't realize it. You know, as a knitter, typically most things, particularly if you're knitting back and forth or that kind of stuff, are kind of 2 row or even number rows oriented. And so this has just been, again, I think I said last time, I feel like the graphics in these patterns were not made with knitting in mind and strictly for looks. And so you kind of have to kind of muddle your way through. But I figure what was really supposed to happen was all of these squares, these vertical squares, were supposed to be 3 rows apart, but they're only 2 rows apart on the first 2, and I'm going to live with it. I'll make the second side to match and everything. But yeah, I thought that top of the pocket treatment was nice. And so what they have me doing now is making a pocket liner. And I got that started. It didn't get very far because what happened was I went out to dinner with a friend. So there it is, very simple. And I left this bag, and this is a Delaque kind of canvas type bag. I left this bag at the place where we went to eat. And so I get home and I'm kind of like, wait a minute, where's my knitting? And I ended up calling them up, and they had it there, and I said, I'll come by and pick it up tomorrow. So I'd end up sitting a day without input, and then I had other projects I was focusing on. But what I'm going to do is finish that liner, and then I'm going to make the second liner, and then I'm going to continue on that side of the cardigan, and hopefully I'll get past the design that's on there. It has a helmet on this side, and then get up, just try to finish that. I want to try to kind of pick up the pace a little bit so that I can have this done for Christmas for my husband. It is fast when you actually do knit it on those needles. I'm working on, I think, some really odd size needles. Let's take a look. So the main is in 7mm needles, and I don't know what the US size, that's not a standard US size, but they're getting me the gauge I need on that sweater. And it's, I'm using Addy Turbos interchangeables. Those are, if my favorite needle is Addy Turbos, if I could have the Chiau Goo cord on my Addies, that would be perfect. So yeah, so that's where that one is. So progress there, a little bit of progress. I've also been working on the Spice Market, and if anybody doesn't know, this is my utility board that I have in here from IKEA, and I keep my works in progress up there. So if you saw last time, there was a mistake in my on the Spice Market, and this is a project that actually is hanging around from last year, which usually doesn't happen that often for this length of time. But for some reason I had slowed down on knitting this, and when I picked it up again, I couldn't even understand why I had slowed down, because it is absolutely a fun knit. So I am up into the 5th color now for the star stitches, so you can see that whole section there. So I have 2 more star rows of the blue, and then I get to the last contrast color, which is a variegated color, and I'll finish off this middle section. You can see it, the rest of it there, and there's the variegated color. And so I will get these last 2 blue rows done and continue on. You can see my mistake. Let's see now here, I have to struggle to find it. Ah, there it is right there, where there's a strand of the contrast color across the front of instead of in back of a stitch. And I think I'll just do a little duplicate stitch of this black to cover that up. But yeah, really, really happy with this. This is unplanned peacock yarn for the most part, although I do have some stitched together. The orange here is a stitched together yarn that I had, and I've got all those details in my project. And I still love, I feel like this project with these colors and this black has a lot of kind of faded areas or light areas in it. I feel like it has like a comic book kind of look to it. And I'm really happy with that. Maybe I should do this. Yes. But yeah, so it's been a nice knit. So once I get past these last star stitch rows, I'll be back on the solid sections of the different contrast colors. So I think it'll move along pretty quickly then. The only thing that slows you down on this are the rows where you have to actually form the star stitch are a little slow. But I've only got 6 of those to go, so that's not too bad. So good progress there. And this, if anybody's curious, is a bag from Stolen Minutes. She makes some really neat bags. She's an Ohio maker, and you should take a look. She has an Etsy shop. I will link that below. Now, okay, the big one. So I have, for anybody who isn't aware, I have a blanket that I'm working on, and this is no small blanket. This is Stephen West's Slipstravaganza blanket, which at the end should be 86.5 inches in diameter. I plan to use it as a cover for the guest bedroom. And so I have a spreadsheet that has me doing like about 540 stitches a day. Here's this massive thing, and it's probably got just about a full 9 skeins of yarn in here right now. Wait a second, 8, was it 1, 2? No, I'm sorry, 12. So it's almost got a full 12 skeins of yarn in here now, of DK yarn, and that is Lankaba My Neo from Finished Knits. And I picked that yarn because it's 75% wool, 25% nylon, but it's a very reasonably priced wool yarn to be able to make this blanket out of wool, because the total blanket takes like 16 to 17 skeins depending on your yardage. Now, I finally finished, let's figure out where I can show this to you, a full repeat. Here we go, spread this out here. So I've got a full repeat of the chevrons done. You can see that. So there's the pink, cotton candy, and cherry. Stretch this out a little bit. Is there an area where I'm not so scrunched up? It's pretty scrunched up now with the amount of length on these needles. Let's try this area a little bit. There we go. Yeah, so you can see got those first repeat. So there'll be another white, pink, and cherry, and then there'll be one row of the coffee color, and then an I-cord bind off all the way around with the coffee color. And so doing this full repeat of these 3 chevrons again will take me until the last week of December, based on doing about 1/3 of a row a day, you know, following my spreadsheet. And was it the oh, and the I-cord itself will take the full last week. I'm planning to do basically 7 of the wedges a day in the I-cord, so that I'm down to just 4 on the last day of the year, and then I'll finish casting this off. But yeah, this thing is absolutely nuts how big and heavy it is now, with nearly 12 full skeins of DK yarn in there. Yeah. And so I am planning to do another year-long blanket next year. And I'm working on the spreadsheet for that right now, and I will share that. I've already picked up my yarn for that, which is Morlan Kava Neo, and we'll see. I will share when I get the spreadsheet done. So if you're kind of interested in using that for planning out doing this, it'll be available for that. But still working on that. I plan to have that done probably by mid-November and have that ready and stuff, because I'm going to be gone for the next about a week and a half. So, and we'll talk about that more later. So that's my epic project, my big blanket in process. And this is the first time I've done that, and I'm actually really happy with that, you know, reasonable amount of knitting, about 540 stitches a day. So when you think about it, let's say you have a 64 stitch around sock. If you did 10 rows on that, that would be 640 stitches. So it's it's not asking more than like 10 rows on a sock as far as forming stitches. Now, managing it in that big clump is a whole nother story. But I've gotten it so where I've got a system of dealing with it now. It works out well. All right, so then the next one is oh yeah, I was going to bring this back. I moved this project back from finished into in process because I found a knitting pattern for wings, and so I'll put a picture of those up now. So I'm going to make these leaves, but I'm going to get rid of the holes in it. I'm going to make some small wings for each side of this. And so when I get that done and get those sewed on and get this front finished with this mohair, I'll put this back in the finished column. But I just wanted to have a quick revisit with that now that I found a wing pattern for it. Now, okay, let's see, Cobblestone. This is my 12th random yarn pick for this year. Oh, it's back here. I'm going to be pulling more and more stuff off of this board. And so I got started on the sleeves for my Cobblestone, and it's interesting. And so I guess the Cobblestone pattern was one of Jared Flood's earliest patterns, and so it has some quirks about it. So just so you see, so this cup, this is according, I'm meeting gauge appropriately, and it's according to the size in the pattern. I double and triple check things. This has like a 6-inch opening here for the sleeve, and so it's very, very similar to a sweatshirt like opening, kind of a straight opening. So I've got that started, and I'm using helical knitting for this again to try to make sure I have my yarn, I have half of it in one color, one dye lot, and half in another. And so I've been making sure to use it helically so I don't have a huge visible difference in the sweater somewhere when I switch from one lot to another. So I used the 2 different strands to start with the a long tail cast on. Bring my notes back up. Did the cuff in a smaller needle size I think an 8, and the main part I'm doing in a size 9 needle. And so that should not take me a ton longer. I've been having a lot of things going on this past week. But yeah, so there it is. There's a start. Let's see how quickly I can jam those sleeves out. feel like I'm getting a little warm there. And so that's progressing well. And now I love that I've got progress on everything. That means not a ton of progress everywhere, but I did have 2 finished objects. So I'm enjoying myself. That's what's important. All right. So now, because my 2 small one skein projects got finished, I needed another small portable project. And so I reached down in my list of random yarn picks for pick number 25 for this year. So that's a relatively recent one. And I started the Rhinebeck Roomies Socks. See if you can see that. Cover up my face. And so this one is a pattern from the Crazy Sock Lady, Kayla. I'm not sure about her last name, but her first name's definitely Kayla. She used to go by Kay, but she's now at Kayla, and I want to make sure I got that right at least. And so it's a really nice texture pattern. It has kind of a vertical, it's kind of columns of garter with columns of some slip stitch detail, and it produces a really nice kind of squishy result. And so the pattern is actually cuffed down, but I'm a big toe up sock preference person, and so I just took an existing sock pattern that I like, and you know, I make a relatively blunt toe, wedge toe. This is probably too much information, but my second toe is longer than my first toe, and so I just like a blunter toe on there. Fits my toes better and everything, so I do that. And so yeah, so this is Primrose yarn, their I think ultimate sock yarn, and it's knitting up really nicely, and the slip stitches and everything are really kind of mixing together the variegated yarn in a nice way. You can see the bottom, how it has these little stripes of the different colors in it occurring. So it'll be interesting to see how this continues to behave as it gets longer. But yeah, so that's my portable project for right now. Now, let's see. Next, okay, so I could not resist. And let me set this here. I've got all kinds of things all over the place. So I was feeling a hankering for casting on another project. And what I decided to do was looking down my list, was looking down for a project that would be one of the sweaters that would be a faster knit, because I have a lot of sweaters in my queue right now because of the random choices that have been happening this year. And so I decided to go ahead and start the Felix Cardigan. Now, that is a pattern by Amy Christophers, and I'm using 2 yarns held together here, so you can see I've got this on a relatively small length cord, but you can see the lace work for the shoulders right there that comes down the raglans. So I've got those, a couple of those out of the way. I've got all the short rows done. So this doesn't look like a whole lot right now, and it is a cardigan, so it will be staying open in the front. But I'm using a fuzzy alpaca yarn from Drops. They're alpaca silk, brushed alpaca silk. And then I'm using a yarn called Resistance from Lorna's Laces, and it was only made once for a kit. But at some point I was able to pick up several of those kits on sale. So I got basically 2 sweater quantities of this yarn as a result. Now they say this yarn is a DK, and this one's a red. I have another one that's gray with speckles in it. And it's about 330 yards per 100 grams based on the information. And I feel like it's almost a little more sporty. You can kind of see the thickness of it there. Can we get that? Yeah. And so, but it works well with this brushed alpaca. Is a little fluffier than a typical mohair. And so the fabric that's being produced I feel like is really nice. It'll be great for this sweater. So I couldn't resist. I jumped in, started this, and we'll continue. I'm hoping this will knit up, well, not hoping, this will knit up fast if I put enough time into it and everything. So I've got some things to make decisions about over the next 2 months about what I want to start and focus on finishing by the end of the year. But I thought having that red sweater done would be really nice. And so yeah, I jumped up in my queue a little bit to do that. So that's all the works in progress. The other thing I wanted to talk about was my project for doing, I had a lot of things I'd finished knitting, didn't need any more knitting, but had ends that needed to be woven in, and they were just kind of lingering in my finishing basket. And so at the beginning of August, I started weaving in 10 ends a day to kind of start working my way through it. Now, I think last time I had mentioned that for one of these socks that I had finished a while ago, I didn't even realize I had unfinished ends, and I finished those finally. And so these are, I'll link the description, the project below. I can't even pronounce these. I think they're basically Smurfette socks, but the name of the pattern's in French. And the reason I did the pattern was this is a colorwork, let's see, coloring book yarn, vintage holidays or something like that. But I like this pattern. Let's see if I pull it there, because there was this nice cable up the back, which I decided to do. But yeah, I had all the ends were not woven in on one of these socks, so I got that done. And then I got the shawl done that you saw me wearing, and the next thing I got done was this vest. I had a whole bunch of weaving in to be done on this vest. See if you can see that. And I think it just turned out great. I got all the ends woven in, and this is sleeveless by, oh gosh, I do not know how to pronounce that name, Kelson. I finished this again. This is another one I finished more than 2 years ago and just never got around to weaving in. It uses a strand of alpaca lace, but not the fuzzy kind, a true lace weight, non-fuzzy yarn. And then it uses a fingering weight. I think it's this another, I'm trying to remember what this might have been, a Lorna's Laces red yarn that I had, but yeah. And so yeah, and it has these Vickle braids in here. I will say that you can see the Vickle braid at the bottom. Let's see, can you, yes, it's there. And you can see the Vickle braid at this upper area here. You'll notice this one's more open. I used a different technique, which I ended up not liking that much, so I would stick to the usual technique going forward. And it's got those braids around the neck as well. You can see that there. And around this, let's see, and around the sleeves too. And it's got these nice rolled stockinette at the sleeves and the collar. So it's just a really nice vest. And so I'm so glad this goes into rotation now. So maybe I'll wear it next episode. We'll see. And then, so that leaves me down. The really nice thing is I'm down to just 2 items from my unfinished basket. And one is my Jimmy Bean shawl from this year, which has like at least 200 ends to weave in. So it's going to travel with me, and I'm going to work on it while I'm on vacation. And the other thing that came up, and I can't imagine, this is another thing that's been done for a while. And this is my City Limits by Tanis Lavalley. And I had finished this again, like at least a couple of years ago, if not 3 years ago, and have a whole bunch of weaving in to do. I'm going to turn it, I prefer the stockinette side out. So I wanted you to at least see it, but I'm working on weaving in all these ends for this sweater. So you can see that. So it goes from a kind of speckled with hot pink to a mixture to the hot pink, and then one that has the hot pinks and the greens, and then, or kind of yellow, highlighter yellow, all the way down. And I just had a bunch of different yarns in my stash that just went together well for this. And so I finished it, and then never, it just, I know what made me seize up on it. The sweater is kind of intended to be worn reverse stockinette side out. Or you can make it so that it's reversible. And I had these ends to weave in, and I was kind of seizing up on, how to do it to make it so it's wearable both ways. But I really prefer it with the stockinette side out. And so I finally made the decision when I had to start weaving in ends on this that I'm just going to do it so that it's wearable with the stockinette side out, and I'll just go from there. And so I'm finishing it off and really happy with it. You can see all my notes. This sweater is something of I made a spreadsheet where I made some kind of major error, and I had to kind of scramble to get this to work out properly. It was pretty funny. And so I still have to revisit that that spreadsheet at some point, but I don't know that I'll be making another one of those sweaters again. I'm really happy with that. But yeah, and it used a lot of yarn because I was using 2 strands of fingering with a strand of mohair and all the way through. And I love how it turned out and everything, but don't know that I'll make it again. But yeah, so that will get finished soon with this weaving in 10 a day. I'm really excited about that, to get that blocked and ready to wear. Now, let's see. So that is that. So that's everything on that front. Now, I decided to switch things up here. I normally start talking about acquisitions, but I decided my yarny content isn't done. I've moved my randomizer pick up to right after I do my works in progress and updates on my weave in 10. So if you've seen the short, you know that this yarn is the randomizer pick number 28 for this year. Yet another basically sweater quantity of yarn. Now this is a non-superwash sport weight, and it's fairly rustic. And this is from Swan's Island, and the funny thing about this is their all-American collection, and this is the colorway Liberty. Now, normally these come in solid colors. This was, I think, an exclusive with Jimmy Beans or something. I'm not 100% about that. But what happened was I got, I think, a couple of skeins of this, and I made, with one of those skeins, a hat that will look familiar to folks, but this is actually not the Musselboro hat. And this was before the Musselboro, this pattern was out before the Musselboro came out. Now this is not a pattern that's universal on what size yarn you use. This is a really old pattern that was reinterpreted. This is called the French Nightcap, and she has in the pattern the original written pattern from some time in the either 1800s or something like that. And so she reinterprets it so that you can use it now. And it's basically the same type of thing. You stuff one end into the other, and you have this hat where you can fold it over, but you can also fold over the top as well. So it used one full skein of this Swan's Island, and I actually have some bleach color Swan's Island that I ended up using because I used more than a skein, and I used it to finish it off there. I'll stick in a picture of this hat on my stepson because originally I gave it to him, but we did some trades and I asked him if I could get this back because he wasn't wearing it that much. And so my idea was, what happened was I had these and I saw in somebody's stash that they had 2 more skeins of this. So I picked it up. And so my crazy idea is to make a sweater out of this yarn. And my crazy idea is to make a Traveler, Andrea Mowry's Traveler, out of this yarn since it's a sport weight, and just kind of see what happens with the colors. Now I have to blame Nitty Natty, and also I think it's Michael from Piece for Piece Crafting, because he's working on a Traveler now, and she's got a Traveler she's made and is wearing, and I think it looks awesome. And so I think these would make a great Traveler. Now the real question is, can I get to this before the end of the year? And I have my doubts. But even so, I know if I do get to it, that's my plan, is to do the Traveler. I'll put a picture of the Traveler up there. So that's my random yarn number 28 for the year. Next year, I think what I'm going to do is, earlier in the year, I did two picks each episode. What I will probably do is get a couple picks when I reboot. I always kind of clear out my queue and reboot and start from scratch every year. I might do a couple of initial picks in 1 week, but then only from then on just one a week. And I'll only do more if I find I'm running out of projects to do, because I think with all the sweater quantities, I got a little ahead of myself this year. All right, so now we're down to acquisitions. Now, I have an acquisition to show that I've been meaning to show for 2 episodes now. And this is the Hide and Hammer bag. And this is the one that's specifically done for, let's see, can you see that? Black Mountain Yarn Shop in North Carolina. And so this is my first time having one of these Hide and Hammer bags, and it's a nice roll top bag that has a lot of space in it, and this is just a great colorway. I love these colors and the design. You can see the design there and there, and so I picked this up. I thought it was such a nice bag from them. Now, you know, folks may be familiar with the Hide and Hammer bags. It's a nice heavy canvas. It's really, really neat. But one of the things I wanted to mention was that Black Mountain Yarn Shop, they are in the middle of where Hurricane Helene went through. And so they actually can't get to their shop right now. And so I definitely have plans for when they're able to get back to their shop. I definitely want to make an order with them to help them kind of make sure they get back on their feet, and have been following to see what's going on there. But one of the things to keep in mind, I'll provide a link below, but you can go check them out. And I think they're really worth looking at. They have a good selection of a variety of yarns, and that bag is beautiful. They always have beautiful, beautiful stuff going on there, and it's tough to see them in circumstances like this, and I hope things can improve for them soon. But I'll definitely be helping support them once they get access back to the yarn shop again. All right, so that was that acquisition. And then I did want to mention a company. I needed some extra Chiau wood needles, and I ended up picking those up from a company. I picked up not only an extra pair of 7s, but some of these odd sizes of needles. These are 10.75 7mm needles and 10.875 7.5 millimeter needles, and then some 2.5mm wooden needles. But Smartisans has a really great selection of Chiau needles at really good prices. And their minimum free shipping rate is really low, I think just $35. And I also got this little tin with all kinds of Chiau accessories in it. It's got one of those little rubbery hearts to use, and a bunch of stoppers and connectors and stitch markers. So it was a really nice little set. It also had some making up needles and some T-pins. And I like the little Chiau tin. But they were great. I'll put a link for them below. I just thought their free shipping deal and the prices on their Chiau needles were really good and stuff. So I've been meaning to mention them, but I'll link them below. And then finally, down to the yarn that I've been brazenly picking up over the past few weeks. So the first one to show you is some yarn from Explorer Knits and Fibers, and as you can see, this is a boucle. Now, I didn't think I talked about this yarn before, so I'm pretty sure I didn't, but I was getting curious about a boucle yarn. I'd been seeing people talk about it. Now, most people were using a bulky weight boucle, but I went and found a DK boucle, and I love this color, which is butternut. And so this just might become a Harris hood. I can put in a picture for that. But again, it just goes into the randomizer pool, and we'll see when it comes out. See, the next thing I did was breaking yarn. She had been having trouble with her email, and so finally an email came through saying, hey, my email's working again. Here's the deal. And so she had a little discount she offered. So I picked up this sweatshirt as well as a couple of her DK skeins. And there they are, breaking yarn. One, this is in Hank Schrader, and this is in hazmat suit. I was thinking of the orange for a hat for my husband, and then I just like the yellow. Like that crazy bright yellow. But yeah, this is her Swish DK. It's 100% superwash merino. And so this goes into the pool of yarn. And then finally, I don't know if any of you have been aware of this, but Jimmy Bean's Wool has been doing this Stitch in States things for a while now. And I've been waiting and waiting for them to get to Ohio. So they finally did. So here is they have a colorway for every state, and I think there's only a certain amount left now, but this is for the state of Ohio, and the colorway is called Buck I Love Yarn. And it's simply a kind of an off-white background with a bunch of speckles. And I'm thinking another nice hat might be nice. This is their vintage, so it's a worsted weight yarn. And so I just wanted to pick up skein of it because it's Ohio. And I don't know if you can see up there, there's a little stitch marker. Actually, let me see if I can grab that for you. It came with it. By the way, that little star up there is another thing I got finished doing my finished weave in 10 a day. And there, let's see, can I hide my unit? Let's see. Yeah, unit little license plate with the big type of hook on there, so it's easier to get onto the stitch. But yeah, so I got that. So that's all my acquisitions. I'm still balancing out. I sent out the yarn for the 1,000 subscriber giveaway, and I will tell you that I am toying with doing in Christmas time, doing a potentially a sweater quantity giveaway that'll put a dent in my stash, but we'll see. But other news, but first of all, let's get to the skein of yarn I want to destash today. All right, so this is from the I think the Woolen Homestead. This is a person who had a podcast going for a while and a yarn dyeing up in Michigan. And this is a DK weight, 100% superwash merino. And it is the colorway Isadora Tonks, and that's named for a character in Harry Potter. Not Isadora Tonks, Nymphadora. Nymphadora Tonks? I think that's named for a Harry Potter character. And so I thought I would go ahead and destash this because I can imagine folks could do something really nice as far as a hat or something like that with this yarn. And so if you're interested in this yarn as part of the giveaway, just put, I would say, Homestead in your comment somewhere. And remember, don't mention giveaway. We don't want the scammers showing up, and I will only ever notify the winner through the podcast, and you get in touch with me through Gmail. And so yeah, so that is the giveaway yarn for this time. So just comment Homestead and let me know. Now, the other thing I want to talk about was I did monetize my channel, and I've been kind of keeping an eye on that. And I also have my spread shop, and I want to say since last episode, since monetizing and also from spread shop, we've got a total of a little over 30 bucks that's come in from those two sources. And so the goal is to get to, my goal is to rotate between giving back to the viewers, giving to a charity, and then using it to cover a utility, like going at 100 at a time, kind of rotating through the money that's coming in. And so we're already 30 bucks. We're almost a third of the way to a gift certificate. So the way I want to do it is once I build up to that first $100 to do a comment giveaway, on an episode, and that person will get a $100 gift certificate for their local yarn shop. I'll get in touch with the local yarn shop and purchase a gift certificate for the yarn shop for that person, and we'll do it that way. So I would say, I'm hoping before the end of the year we'll get to that. So that might be what I end up doing instead of a sweater quantity giveaway, but we'll see. But it's pretty exciting. And so, yeah. And so the other thing I'm thinking about, the charities that I usually support and where that might go. Some of the ones might be educational. I really like, there is Khan Academy, which I have supported in the past because they have some great courses there and everything. And there'll probably be some medical related ones, cancer related ones I want to support, but I'll probably pick a different one each time and we'll do that. So yeah, so it's really exciting to see where things are going. I haven't recorded a whole lot of videos. It's been busy. We've been prepping for vacation, but I think I'll get some more time to get to recording some in-between podcast videos once we get back from vacation. But in the meantime, I hope you're experiencing kindness and giving kindness in your life, and you're treating yourself well and taking care of yourself. I hope you're enjoying the weather, whether you're going into sweater weather or going into your spring, depending on your hemisphere and everything. But yeah, otherwise, please do. I hope you are enjoying your knits.